Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being a viewer, for being a subscriber. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time out to watch my videos. Now, if you're not a subscriber yet, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Please consider enabling notifications. This way you'll get instant alerts from us specifically on breaking news. Oftentimes, the information that we release on our channel comes out faster in a more well-balanced fashion compared to conservative media, compared to liberal media, and definitely compared to many other channels on YouTube. And I believe you'll agree with that if you've been watching my videos for a while. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. Your vote of confidence in me and my team is you clicking subscribe, you enabling notifications, and you clicking the like button if you learn something new. Thank you again, and let's jump right into this. Now, the effort that has been put forth by the House and the Senate to give us stimulus relief so far has been significant, and I've been covering the latest stimulus negotiations. But essentially, Congress has done a lot up to this point. But unfortunately, what I'm about to tell you is probably going to surprise you. It's going to shock you. A significant portion of the money that was allocated has actually missed the mark. So I'm going to answer the question: the stimulus efforts so far that have been provided by Congress, have they actually been doomed to fail? Yes, I'm going to answer that question. In fact, what a lot of us don't realize is that Congress has passed four spending bills so far. Four spending bills were passed earlier this year to address the economic fallout that essentially happened as a result of this pandemic. And this is essentially the costliest effort in US history, the costliest effort, the most amount of money that's been spent in US history. And the undertaking, when it was done at the start of the year, was universally praised because there was a lot of bipartisanship, specifically at the start of the year in March when the CARES Act was passed. Now, we're talking $4 trillion in government grants and loans, which actually exceeded the cost of 18 years of war in Afghanistan. Can you believe that? So the $4 trillion that was passed exceeded the cost of 18 years of war in Afghanistan. And this is what Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said when the Senate approved the CARES Act back in March. And again, this was the largest of the relief measures. We're going to win this battle in the very near future. That's what the Senate Majority Leader said back in March. Well, that was a lifetime ago. You know that. I know that. In fact, I believe life has changed in the past few days with everything that's been going on. So, 6 months after the CARES Act was passed, we're still battling this pandemic. In fact, many states have seen a resurgence. Some states are at their highest level ever in terms of reported cases. So we're far away from having recovered from this. And all the money that was spent, a significant portion of money was spent that was supposed to help people. By the way, I want to be clear. I do believe that help should go to those who need it the most. I just want to be clear about that. So I'm a messenger. I'm providing you with data here, but I do believe help should go to those who need it the most. And as you're about to see, help did not go to those who need it the most. In fact, help actually went to large corporations and businesses, which breaks my heart to report that. And the ones who needed help the most should have gotten it, but the fact is, much of the money missed the mark. In fact, you see the headline of this article on your screen: doomed to fail, why a $4 trillion bailout couldn't revive the American economy. Just astonishing. An avalanche of US grants and loans helped the wealthy and companies that laid off workers. Individuals received 1/5 of the aid. If you can believe that, 1/5 of the aid was actually received by individuals, by the American taxpayer. Majority of the money that the US government gets is from taxpayers like you, is from low and middle income taxpayers like you. I have done another video where I talked about how the US government gets money and spends money, so you definitely want to check out that video. I think that you'll be quite surprised with where the money comes from. So let's get started with the content in this video. You'll see a chart on your screen which shows you the total extent of the bailout. This is how the $4 trillion was essentially allocated. You'll see this on your screen here. And you'll see that yellow portion, which essentially takes up more than half of this total allocation of $4 trillion. So that yellow portion takes up more than half of the total allocation of the entire bailout, the $4 trillion bailout. Let's see what it was. So again, this is the full the full image that you see on your screen here shows you the entire $4 trillion. So the US response to the coronavirus has already been the costliest relief effort in modern history. It's a $4 trillion effort. It's an assortment of grants, loans, and tax breaks that exceeded the cost of the 18 years spent in the Afghanistan war. Just astonishing. Let's take a look at the yellow portion. More than half, or $2.3 trillion went to businesses. This is the yellow portion that you see on your screen here, which in many cases were not required to show they were impacted by the pandemic or keep workers employed. So a significant portion of that money went to businesses that really didn't have to do anything, because a lot of them had requirements, but depending on the type of business, depending on the type of program, depending on how much money they got, there weren't a whole lot of documentation requirements, and so that is essentially what happened. So again, more than half, or $2.3 trillion went to businesses which in many cases were not required to show that they were impacted by the pandemic or keep workers employed. I want you to think about that for a second. The Paycheck Protection Program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, as well intentioned as they were, they went to businesses that didn't need to keep people on their payroll. It's basically what it is. Let's take a look at one portion of that $2.3 trillion. The bill also included $651 billion. This is part of the $2.3 trillion. $651 billion in tax breaks that often went to companies that actually laid off workers. The Cheesecake Factory, for example, furloughed 41,000 people. I want you to think about that for a second. The Cheesecake Factory furloughed 41,000 people and said it will claim a tax break worth $50 million. This is a company that furloughed people and still got a tax break. This, by the way, accounts for part of the $2.3 trillion, which is more than half of the $4 trillion bailout that was part of the whole pandemic relief package. In other words, the four bills that have been passed so far. Now we're talking of an additional close to $2 trillion bailout that House Speaker Pelosi and U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin are negotiating. Just think about that for a second. So let's continue. Now, we're still on the $2.3 trillion here, so we're still in that yellow zone. $454 billion went to the Federal Reserve to help stabilize markets, and those efforts enabled many companies, including Wells Fargo, AT&T, and Carnival, to actually borrow money at low interest rates, even while laying off employees. I've said this before, the rich got richer. This is a K-shaped recovery. Individuals who already have money, companies that already have money, individuals with a graduate degree or higher, individuals who are high wage earners, are actually already back to their jobs. In fact, they can work remotely, whereas individuals in travel, entertainment, leisure, hospitality, these are the low wage earners. Those who have less than a college education, those who have less than a high school education, they are the ones who've actually been impacted the most. And they are the ones who've lost their jobs, often permanently. So it's quite ironic when you actually, let's go back to the chart, when you look at this and you understand that there are companies that were able to lay off employees and still continue borrowing money at close to 0%. It just blows my mind to report this data. By the way, full credit to the news outlet that reported this astonishing work. I will provide you with the link in the description section below to this actual article, so you can check out this article. You can read the entire article for yourself. So I strongly recommend you check out this article. I'll provide you with a link below. Let's continue looking at this $2.3 trillion breakdown. A portion of this $2.3 trillion was the Paycheck Protection Program. $670 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program. A lot of that money, the allocation of that money, a lot of the accounting of that money remains unfinished. Companies that received the money were not compelled to use it to provide paychecks and to protect paychecks, and many of them actually didn't. Just think about that for a second. Now let's move to the green section. The green section is money that went to individuals, money that went to individual income taxpayers, low wage earners, middle income earners, high income earners. Most of my viewers and subscribers would fall into this bucket, this green bucket, if you will, that corresponds to individuals. And you can see that $884 billion, roughly 1/5 of the relief money, went to help individual income taxpayers, went to help workers, went to help families, went to help the average American citizen, you, my viewer and subscriber. $884 billion, which is roughly 1/5 of $4 trillion. Now, compare that with the yellow section for a second. Compare that with the $2.3 trillion that went to business. Now, I want to be clear. Money has to go to businesses so that, because it's the businesses that create jobs. And by the way, that was probably the underlying rationale of the administration. But why is it that businesses got the money but were still able to let employees go? Why did businesses get cheap loans or loans close to 0% and still be able to follow employees? Because ultimately that bill is going to be paid for by the US taxpayer. That bill is going to be paid for by my 5-year-old son, by my 2-year-old daughter, and by future generations. That is the reality of this situation. So let's get back to the green section. At $884 billion, roughly 1/5 of the relief went to help workers and families. And while the stimulus attempted, now we're looking at the red portion. By the way, this is why the package was doomed to fail. I'm about to get to the part that I think should have been given more emphasis relative to the yellow section. Ideally, the green section should have been larger, the red section should have been larger, and the yellow section should have been smaller, with more accountability, more documentation requirements, a necessity to keep people on payroll. That would have been a better allocation of the money, but that is where things stand right now. And by the way, that could be one of the reasons that the Republicans, and here's the connection. Let me be clear. Here's the connection of this entire initial bailout to the current stimulus, because a lot of you are only concerned about the current stimulus, and that's okay. I get that, but the bigger picture is very important, because at the end of the day, this is about our country. The connection that this has to the current stimulus is that Republicans have now learned that, oh my gosh, we pumped so much money into the economy. A lot of it wasn't allocated properly. A lot of it hasn't been utilized. More money should have gone to individual income taxpayers. Oops, there's an election coming up. So now let's, do the $1,200 stimulus check. Let's do, some unemployment. So a lot of the Republican senators have actually said, whoa, and by the way, I've done another video talking about Republican senators who oppose further stimulus. So I want to make sure you check that out as well. The logic amongst a lot of GOP senators, by the way, GOP stands for Grand Old Party, which was a name given to the Republican Party almost a century ago. Just a fun historic fact there. But Republican senators don't want to do any further stimulus because they see, that, essentially the first stimulus package in their mind was large and it wasn't allocated correctly, and they don't want to continue what they consider wasteful spending. So you can see from the GOP standpoint, that is their hesitation. So we've already done so much, but the fact is it could have been done better, which is what this chart is all about. And the fact is individuals who need help the most should indeed get it. So now let's look at the red portion. While the stimulus attempted to ease the economic pain, and by the way, it did ease the economic pain, economists say the real cause, the ongoing pandemic, was not addressed. Only 16% of the money was allocated to fighting the health crisis. That's the portion that you see in red. Again, if the red portion had been bigger, if the green portion had been bigger, and if the yellow portion had been smaller with more accountability, I think we would be in a much better position today. So testing, contact tracing, and treatment. By the way, this is what a lot of the Democrats are pushing for. And this is something that, that makes sense in the grand scheme of things. But, hindsight is always 2020, right? So now let's look at the final portion, which is the gray portion that you can see. And now it's been highlighted in blue. This is the final portion. $253 billion went to help state governments and public agencies to pay for protective equipment, first responders, and other pandemic impacts. This is also the missing link. This needs more funding is needed for our local heroes. More funding is needed for state governments and public agencies for protective equipment, for first responders and other pandemic impacts. To say that that there shouldn't be a bailout for blue states, it's not right. It's not right, because we have to, for me, it's not about the red or the blue. It's about the red, white, and blue. I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm American. And so are you. State and local governments need more funding. Individuals need more funding. We need more funding towards testing, treating, contact tracing. And companies that already grew richer as a result of this pandemic should probably have to pay back some of the money. But good luck with that as far as the government is concerned. That's where things stand right now, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, check out my video. I have the honor, the privilege of living the American dream. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. That's 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. Make sure you click like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you enable notifications. That is your vote of confidence in us, your support for me and my team, and all the effort that we put in on a daily basis to bring you this kind of cutting edge information on our channel. I really appreciate you watching. Follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is ignition_time. We release exclusive content on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter as well. Our Twitter handle is also ignition_time. We release real-time breaking news alerts on Twitter. Also keep in mind that you can send us a text message. Send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000. That's 70000. You'll get added to our SMS alerts list. You can also, if you want, get added to our email list. In addition to our SMS alerts list, go to ignitiontime.com/alerts. That's ignitiontime.com/alerts. You'll get on our email list and our SMS list, and you can opt out of either one of them. It's entirely up to you. Finally, make sure you bookmark youtube.com/ignitiontime. That's youtube.com/ignitiontime. Then you don't have to be dependent on notifications from YouTube. You can simply check out our homepage and you can watch the videos at any point in time that you want. This way, you can check out the videos at your convenience. Thank you so much for watching once again. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.